Call the meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members first. To my left is Linda McFadden, to my far left Maurice Carrier. I'm Marcel Larondo, I'll be chairing today. The assessor today will be David Penner, and our administrative assistant today will be Cindy Vinson. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And if we can make sure our phones are shut off and not ringing, we'll swear everybody in, please.
Please state your full name.
David Thomas George Penner.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Would you like to swear or affirm?
I'll swear.
Sure. Please state your full name.
Gene, G-E-N-E, Gregory Zazelenchuk, Z-A-Z-E-L-E-N-C-H-U-K.
Let me go to you.
Sure.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
I
help
do.
you God? Do you have any evidence you'd like me to give to the panel? You don't have to.
I'll,
You want to swear or affirm?
I can swear.
Sure. Please state your full name.
Gerald Stephen Weddleman.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Penner, when you're ready, we'll start at 1362 Board of the first year, which will be the 2016, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, we're starting off with file number 17-4689. The applicant.
4690.
Well, the 2016 is 4689.
Yeah.
Those are reversed.
17 on first.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So 20.
I'll move my page.
Are we doing 16 now?
Yeah, we're doing 16.
Might as well do, we'll disperse. These are both the same reference here, so all the information will pertain to both.
Okay.
The applicant is Roy's Electric Limited. The roll year is 2016. This is a supplementary assessment which was issued effective July the 1st, 2016. The address is 1362 Border Street. The business assessment ID is 43577. Again, the owner is Roy's Electric Limited. The total annual rental value is $41,400. The area of the premise is 5,000 square feet, and the overall ARV per square foot with costs included is $8.28 per square foot. Turning down mid-page, subject bid is 43577, and details are there. 1362 Border Street, the premise area is 5,000 square feet, using a base square foot rate of $6.31 a square foot. Gives us a base ARV of $31,550. To that we applied costs, heat at 72 cents a square foot, electricity at $1.01 a square foot, water at 17 cents a square foot, and air conditioning, only part of the area is air conditioning. That's 1,190 square feet at 30 cents a square foot. The total occupancy costs are 9,857. Added to the base RV gives us an annual rental value of 41,400. Below are some rent comparables, just to show that our rent per square foot is supported by the marketplace. There's 4 comparables there. They range from a low of $5.15 a square foot to a high of $8.97 per square foot. The rent that we've used on this property is well within the middle of that range. I should note that the realty on this property was heard at the Board of Revision, and $6.31 was the net rent used for the realty valuation, and we're just carrying that forward and using the very same rate here. Turning to page 2 is an overhead view of the property. As you can see, it's on Border Street with some office space in the front and warehouse space towards the back of the property. Turning to the next page is a direct overhead view of this property. The next page in is a mailer from the property owner, which shows the leasable area of 5,000 square feet. There is only one tenant here showing on the mailer occupying the entire 5,000 square feet. And
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, back up 1 page,
Yeah, 517.
under 17.
it's on the 17 one?
Yeah,
My apologies.
Sorry, all we have is the 2 photos in the cover sheet.
For both years?
yeah, oh, that's right, that's all we have.
No, we don't have that.
You don't have the mailer?
No, we don't have the mailer.
Okay, I suppose I neglected to include that. The mailer itself is post-reference. I had intended to refer to it to show that there was one tenant on the property occupying the entire space. That's probably why I chose to not include that information, but the mailer information from the property owner indicates one lease for 5,000 square feet. And that's my presentation. So based on the evidence presented here, I ask that the assessment be confirmed.
Do you have any questions?
I do. Who do you have as the property owner?
Property owner is Paul Joss Holdings Limited.
And who do you have as the tenant?
The tenant is Redbridge Holdings Limited.
How do you get to Roy's Electric?
The president of Redbridge is the same president, Mr. Reutelman, as Roy's Electric, so they're associated companies.
And are you aware that there are 2 other companies that operate out of that building?
I'm not aware.
So, are you aware that Roy's Electric does not occupy the entire building, but only occupies a portion of it?
I've seen some notes to that effect, but I have no proof of it.
Well, you say you've seen notes to that effect?
Yes, there's been some 311 inquiries suggesting that Roy's did not operate or occupy the entire space, but we haven't been able to verify that, nor have we any documentation to that effect.
Have you made any efforts to find it? I mean,
One of our field assistants went out and was not allowed in to inspect the property, so we don't have any evidence to that effect.
okay, I guess my last question is, do you have any evidence to the effect that that's not accurate?
I do not.
Any further questions?
No, the witness identified the tenant as Redbridge Holdings.
Okay, we'll see if there's any questions here. Maurice?
Yeah, I'm looking at your comparables here,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about Roy's Electric, I would assume. Now, there might be different information coming from the appellant here. But your comparables, are these electric outfits?
No, No,
What are they?
they would be comparable in terms of use and size. So you see they're ranging in size from 5,000 square feet, which is right next door to the subject property, as high as 7,000. Good comparisons in terms of similar use, that is industrial type use, and similar in size. And the one next door would obviously be a reasonable comparison, as it's on the exact same street.
So, do we know who these are? Or we don't?
I wouldn't identify the,
So your
Businesses.
position is that this is based on similar square footage and similar buildings, I would assume, or similar occupancy?
yes, and also the fact that the 631 net rent was used at the realty hearing for this
Realty.
property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Linda,
I have no questions.
is 1368 owned by the same company?
I don't believe so.
That's a one-year lease, correct?
Yes.
One-year leases, are they not normally a little higher because they're a little riskier?
I couldn't say.
Because you got your
It could be.
5-year,
Yeah, that
5
could
years
be.
at 515,
Yes.
so you got your 3 lower ones,
Mhm.
and the only one that jacks it up is the 1 year. Does that not throw something at
Yeah,
us?
but we're not putting all our weight on that. As you see, the square foot rate we've used is somewhat lower than that one.
Now, I guess I'm gonna wanna hear his evidence before I've still gotta ask you the question. If there are 4 other businesses, would the 4 businesses be getting an individual bill, or would they be?
Typically, we would assess the occupant, the holder of the lease, and if there are other businesses, they would be considered subtenants.
Mhm.
We don't know, they don't have leases of their own, so we don't have information with what space they have and what they're paying. We don't know, for example, what agreement they may have with the occupant, the holder of the main lease. So we don't have that detail to do individual assessments on the other businesses. We treat them as subtenants.
But if evidence was presented that there was separate leases, would we consider them as individuals?
If they have separate leases, yes.
Okay, on with your presentation.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Royland the questions and he'll give you answers if that's okay.
That's fine. That's one way to present information.
Mr. Royland, what's your position with Roy's Electric?
President.
And what does Roy's Electric do?
We are a commercial industrial electrical contractor based in Winnipeg.
And can you tell us how long it's an incorporated company?
To the best of my knowledge, since roughly 1968.
Now, Roy's Electric carries on its business from the premises in question, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the only business that carries on its business from the premises in question?
No, it is not.
Can you tell us what other businesses carry on from those premises?
I own 2 other companies. One is an alarm company that services southern Manitoba called CBA Systems, Inc. And the third company is a waste and recycling equipment servicing company that is involved with probably most of the retail outfits in southern Manitoba.
So, with respect to the alarm company, would you tell the panel a little bit more about the services that they provide?
We supply and install residential, commercial, industrial alarm systems, CCTV systems, closed circuit camera. We also do card access systems, monitoring service for various customers from around North America.
And Is that an incorporated company?
It is an incorporated company, yes.
And can you tell us when it was incorporated?
January 28, 2008.
And the third company, or the third business that you were telling us about, what does it do exactly?
The company is called Capital Waste and Recycling Equipment Limited, and we service waste and recycling equipment for national accounts, as an example, Walmart, and several other large-scale retailers, and some private individuals. The basis of the company is to service the equipment. We do not handle any waste or recycled product in the facility. We only service the equipment. That is all we do.
And is that an incorporated entity?
It is also an incorporated entity.
And when was it incorporated?
If I recall, February 2016.
Do the three corporations file a joint tax return?
No, they do not.
Do they have joint financial statements?
No, they do not.
Each contributes to Redbridge Holding for rent,
That is correct.
and I'm showing you a document. Can you identify that for me?
This is a transaction detail regarding the rent payments from Roy's Electric to Redbridge for the period of July 2016 through February 2018.
And what's the monthly payment?
$1,428.57 plus GST is the monthly payment.
1,000.
Just could, if I could offer this as an exhibit to the panel?
You won't need it back?
I can always get another printout to keep. And, Mr. Chairman, I don't think it's necessary because the learned opposition has indicated that the lease is between Paul Joss Holdings LTD, the landlord, and Redbridge Holdings LTD, but I do have a lease in my possession, and maybe I could just ask the witness two questions with respect to it. When was this lease entered into?
July 4th, 2016.
And what's the term of the lease?
3 years.
Those are all the questions I have of Mr. Rosen.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Pettit?
My only question would be if there are other leases in play and the area in question was an issue, why none of these documents have been provided to the department. We have no evidence, we still have no evidence in front of us today to alter our assessment. Can you tell me why no documents have been provided along with your inquiry to the department?
I can tell you, I would counsel a client that what's the point of wasting money on me to draw you a lease? The statute of frauds in this province was repealed 25 years ago. There is such a thing as a verbal lease. If the parties aren't going, the purpose of having a written lease is to prevent, is to be there in case there's a disagreement. But if the businesses aren't going to disagree with each other, since they have the same directing mind, what's the point of having wasting money on a lease?
I have no questions, no further
Yeah,
questions.
I mean, that's my answer to that question, sir.
Maurice?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
No,
Maurice.
you're asking me. So you're the president of those three companies?
Yes, I am.
And is there a holding company? Because
Yes, there is.
That's the holding of the three?
Yes.
Okay. And just trying to get my head around this. We haven't talked about square footage, we've talked about CVA alarms, we've talked about the recycling, and Roy's Electric has been in operation for a long time. But I'm trying to, these are all separate entities. I don't know how this works exactly, but I guess the business tax could be separate for each operation. And what I find a little You know, there's a threshold as well that exists. And so why would a company not submit the 3 to be below the threshold, which is $33,000 or something, and would be exempt from business tax? I'm trying to connect between the city saying I'm not getting the information, and you people are saying there's 3 separate outfits here with a holding company. I'm just trying to get my head around this. Why not take what is possible here that won't cost anything?
Just the normal stuff. The
so-
reason why there is only one lease is Mr. Joss did not want 3 separate leases. He only wanted 1 lease, and the only way I was able to do that was by creating a holding company to sign the lease. That was the only reason why it even exists.
Mr.,
Joss, the owner of the building.
The owner.
Yes.
so
Otherwise,
you're not the owner of the building then?
Oh, no,
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 no.
not at all.
No, it's the holding that's got the 3 with the,
If I was the owner of the building, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
okay. So, so that's the challenge you have at the moment of not, you've got 1 lease. And so I would assume that the assessment on the realty that you're using as an argument, I'm trying to get my head around this properly. The city used the real estate value per square foot that I would assume the owner had appealed. Who made or who got the tax bill for this property?
Paul Joss Holdings, the
Paul Joss?
realty
Okay,
owner
okay.
gets the realty.
Can I see that sheet back here, Morris?
Sure. Okay, so basically the owner got this, was assessed 631. Now we've got a holding company with 3 different entities that has made a lease, and it was not possible. I'm just confirming what I'm trying to put my head around. So you had no choice but to have 1 lease with the
That's
owner,
correct.
because that's the choice he gave you.
That is
So there's no evidence, the 5,000 square feet is not in question, that's okay?
That is entirely correct.
Okay, and what about that lease? What was the deal on that lease? Do we have that information, what the cost per square foot was?
Well, the lease speaks for itself. I can certainly give it to you. It says,
No, I don't want to read it, I'm just trying to,
I can tell you what the lease says by way of rent. For the first 6 months of the term, the monthly gross rent equal to $4,500 per month, and then the usual legalese payable, blah, blah, blah. And for the remaining 30 months of the term, annual gross rent equal to $56,400 in lawful money of Canada plus GST, payable in equal monthly installments of $4,700.
and what's the term of that lease with, it's 3 years, but from what time to what
It's
time?
from July, the lease is dated July 4th, 2016, and it runs for 3
Oh,
years.
so it's after, it's post-reference. Another problem. Okay.
Were you there before July 4th?
No, sir.
Pardon?
No.
Mr. Royalman informs me, when did you move into the building?
Late July 2016.
Well, I'm reluctant to ask questions on post-reference here. Because his lease is post-reference, square footage is post-reference, and we're back to 2014. I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Chairman. I just trying to tell you where I'm at, I guess.
Okay, Linda?
Supplementary was issued when the tenant took occupancy then, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And just to be clear, you're not contesting the amount, the total amount for the building then, like rental, the ARV or that either?
If I was to contest anything, it would be the occupancy costs,
Okay,
as I would find them higher than normal.
okay, thank you. That's all my question.
But your actual rent for the whole building is 54,000, isn't that not correct?
After the first 6 months of the lease, yes,
Yes.
we're not hiding that, that's
No.
the actual rent.
So it's actually higher than what they are doing the rental value at
That's,
for the whole building.
that's what Red Bridge Holdings LTD is
Yes.
liable for, and, you know, we didn't come here to hide things, we're being frank.
But are you trying to get this split off between the three companies so they each pay their share, or
Well,
I'm at lost on this because of the post reference with, that's why I wanted to see the sheet back, because everything was 2016 to 2018 on here.
it started, I believe it starts in July of 16,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
and that's
It's all post reference.
when Mr. Reutelman moved into the building, or had moved his companies into the building more accurately.
But Red Bridge is your holding company, correct?
Correct.
So Red Bridge is that a net lease or is that a gross lease? Are you paying the taxes on the building as well?
That's included in our rent.
So the taxes are included in there.
Just so that there's no confusion, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned, aside from Red Bridge, you mentioned that there are 3 other companies, and you told us what they were. Who owns the shares in those 3 companies? Does Red Bridge own them?
No, the Red Bridge does not.
Red Bridge is your holding company, but you own the 3 companies.
I do.
So what are you looking for? As far, I guess,
Well, we're looking, Mr. Chairman, what we're looking for is quite simply, we're looking for Roy's Electric to be charged taxes based on the rent that it actually pays, and based on the fact that it doesn't occupy the entire premises. Yes, Mr. Reutelman owns all 3 companies, but the whole purpose of incorporating a company is to limit liability. And it's not a situation where there's a sham or a scam to defraud the legitimate payment of taxes. These are 3 separate businesses. They do 3 different things. And it's my respectful submission that it only makes sense if an ambitious person, as it seems Mr. Reutelman is, an ambitious person wants to start another enterprise. We don't know, I mean, one of these companies was only incorporated 1.5 years ago. We don't know if the business will fly or sink. And why would any prudent business person, when they embark on a new venture, not choose to incorporate a new corporation, particularly when it's an entirely separate venture? Providing electrical contracting has nothing to do with servicing, with the servicing that's being done to the recycling units. They're completely separate, so why wouldn't a prudent businessman do that?
how many square feet does Roy's Electric use?
It uses 1 office in the front office
But make
area.
it the square footage.
The square foot for the office is approximately 100 square feet plus about 500 square feet in the shop for storage of miscellaneous materials.
And then the other 2,
CVA shares the office with, well, basically my office. Maybe a total of about under 500 square feet total for CVA.
and then the last one,
Capital, very little. Most of the equipment is stored outside because it doesn't require to be kept warm or heated. It's just equipment that sits outside.
okay, that's only 1,100 square feet that you're giving me out of 5,000. What's the rest of the building used for?
Just dry storage.
For which company?
Some of my personal effects and some of Capital's essential equipment, I should say. I should include that, pardon me, I forgot about that. Some of their essential tools are stored inside. the building,
And that would be how many square feet they're using for that?
maybe another 1,000.
So you're using a good chunk for personal as well then?
Some of my personal effects, yes.
Can you give the chairman an idea of how many square feet that takes up?
Oh, I would say probably close to 1,000 square feet, plus minus.
Still only have 3, eh?
Yeah, we're getting closer. Is there a reason why the city wasn't permitted to go in and do an inspection?
We were not advised the city was coming. The individual walked in while I was away. I had requested from the individual to please return, to make arrangements with me to return. I don't like people wandering around my office as it is a safety issue. The person was not prepared with any safety gear at the time to walk through the shop. As we are going through our core certification at this time, we have to enforce health and safety regulations on site. And I had specifically requested from this individual that she could return at any time. I have nothing to hide. But if she could please come back when I was back in the office, as I was away from the city at that point. I never heard back from anybody at any point about a return visit, which I was welcoming.
It makes it difficult for us to make a decision on breaking up a piece of property when there's, again, I know you don't have to do up a lease, but there should be something that breaks your three apart and your personal apart so that we know where the values are and how they're being spread. If we take the total number for your lease, it ends up, we'd have it up higher. I'm trying to help you make a case, but you have to supply information to the city, and they have to do an inspection, and they have to do that breakdown. We can't do a breakdown here without seeing the property or seeing some type of paperwork, some type of evidence that shows who's got what.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't think we've heard any argument
No.
that suggests that this amount of business tax is not due for this total business, right?
Right,
The evidence we've heard
No.
suggests that that's okay, it's just a matter of how it
how
gets
it's
broken.
split.
Yeah,
But that's up to the city
Yeah,
to split.
my comment was, first of all, on occupancy costs, you made a comment that you thought those were, well, they're basically statutory. I'm not an authority on this, but it's basically statutory. You get the square footage plus they add this stuff sort of as an automatic, unless there's less air conditioning. My suggestion is there has to be an exchange between the city and you to see how we can get through this thing, because for us, it's very difficult. And I mean, we've got a building, we've got a lease, there's no discussion about the 5,000 square feet. The ARV seems to be reasonable. So,
You've heard Mr. Reutelman say that he welcomes somebody coming down.
Yeah.
You've heard his concerns.
yeah,
Respectfully, I think they're not frivolous concerns. We can arrange as soon as you excuse us, we can arrange a time between Mr. Reutelman and Mr. Penner for an inspection, providing that the safety gear is worn, which is not a big deal. I mean, I wear a hard hat when I go to a construction site, even with my suit. And, you know.
yeah, I'm not questioning that. I'm just trying to find, there's nothing like dialogue to sort out stuff, right? So that's all I'm saying. So we're being respectful of what you're saying, it's just that.
Talking is always a lot easier and less expensive than fighting.
Thank you.
I've got no further questions. I think we'll leave it up to Mr. Penner and then to get together after we've made our decision in the end. That'll conclude the matter.
Mr. Chairman, may I summarize, please?
Yes, you may.
I share your thoughts, Mr. Chairman, that we don't have any evidence on which to split this assessment up. We don't have a sketch that shows the space occupied by each company. Individual leases, we don't have any of that. All we have is one lease for 5,000 square feet. business tax can be split between the occupants based on their proportionate share, and that's typically what happens when you have subtenants like this. They don't want to have to do individual leases for their own personal reasons, but we have no means to divide this up. This is the first I've heard of the companies CBA and Capital. I have no idea those companies even existed, so this is extremely difficult for us to do anything with it other than defend the assessment. Thank you.
And this would be the same for both of them?
Yes, 2017, all the information is the same, it's the same reference date, so the assessment.
You're in agreement with that they're both the same?
That what's both the same?
2016 and
2016,
2017.
2017, the numbers are all the same.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah, so we don't have to hear it all over again. Okay, that'll conclude the matters then.
May I?
You may
make
close,
a
I guess,
report?
you may
Yes.
put in summation.
The first thing that I would say in summation is that the lease isn't with Roy's Electric. It's a jump to go from the fact that everybody here agrees that Redbridge Holdings LTD leases the building, and the assessment is being made on Roy's Electric. And for that reason alone, it's my respectful submission that the appellant ought to succeed, because the appellant is not the entity that rents the building. Now, what happens after Redbridge Holdings rents the building is another story. And I'm going to advise my client, and I'm going to suggest, I'm going to advise my client to cooperate fully, but I'm going to suggest that my client and the city get together and go and inspect the building and see what part of the building Mr. Reutelman uses for his personal use, what part of the building the two corporations use. And I'm sure that Mr. Reutelman will produce the appropriate minute books and the appropriate tax returns, not that the income tax returns are any of the city's business, but from the point of view of indicating that these are separate entities conducting separate and different businesses. But I end up with saying that Redbridge is the lessor, not Roy's. And I thank the board for listening to me.
But the city had said that Redbridge was the holding.
Yes.
They, just, for some reason, you've got it marked on here that it's Roy's Electric.
Yes, they're the business. Redbridge Holdings leases the space from the
Yeah,
property owner, and the president of Redbridge is the same person, Mr. Reutelman, as Roy's Electric.
Yeah.
I think we got the picture.
I think
we have the picture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
May we be excused?
Gentlemen, you may be
Thank you.
excused. Shut her down. Oh, no,
No,
don't shut her down yet. We got one more.
no, that's then, we have another
You be
property.
excused, we gotta deal with another
Oh,
property.
you're fine.
Good morning to the board.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
That's the equitable one, we're just gonna confirm it.
No, this one's withdrawn,
Hmm?
and that one's.
This one's withdrawn?
Yeah, I got
Equitable?
it this morning,
You got this morning?
Yeah.
That's withdrawn now.
yeah.
Which one is that?
Equitable has been
Oh,
withdrawn.
they did withdraw?
Yeah,
Okay, that makes
and
it
then the
easy.
top one is just, there's nothing.
Yeah,
So we are done.
yeah.
Yeah, shut her down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fenner.